Cardinal fixed gear planes are hard to find, and a lot of the reason to that is because owners really like the planes, including me. Now, the Cardinal has everything that an owner would expect to get on a plane, and actually even more, because it's even a rare situation that it's coming with a full warranty on the engine. This plane is a clean Midwest-owned plane, so no corrosion. It's got all logs since new, it's been hangared, and there's no recorded accident history. It's only got 2,927 hours total time. And the most important part of this plane is that the engine and the propeller have only 5 hours since overhaul was done on them earlier this summer. Now, that overhaul was actually done by Western Skyways. It's one of the best engine companies out there. I'm going to go into a lot more detail on that in the engine section. This plane has the latest Garmin GTN 650 touchscreen navcom and a top-of-the-line Garmin ADS-B in and out transponder. It even comes with an autopilot. You can see on the outside that it's got some nicer, newer paint, and the exterior is nice and clean. The interior you'll find is clean. It's got some nice upgrades in there. It's an IFR certified plane, and we just came out of the extensive annual. When we do any type of maintenance or annuals on planes, we are very thorough. We don't just do what needs to be done immediately right now. If we find something that is getting close to needing to be done, we're just going to take care of it. So everything's been done. You'll find that in the logbook entries. So we've had this plane on multiple flights, and the most recent one was a 300 nautical mile cross country. It flew very nice, straight across, no stops, up at higher altitude. So if you haven't watched our full review of the Cessna Cardinal yet, you really need to do so. We've got the link here for it, and you can also just go on YouTube, search Aerolife, go to our channel. It's a very detailed review of the Cardinal, the most detailed you're going to find. It's got over 42,000 views on it already, and it tells you everything you want to know about a Cessna Cardinal. This Cardinal has a clean exterior with no corrosion or hail. There's going to be a few minor sections, some small scuffs and a few chips and things like that, but you're going to expect at least that much from any plane similar to this. When we do maintenance on our planes, we actually really kind of tend to overdo it. Our maintenance is very important to us. So when we did the engine overhaul, at the same time we did an extensive annual. And there's a number of things that we updated, including an ELT that has the new version style with the GPS locator inbuilt. And that unit alone actually is close to $1,000 for that. It's got new batteries and new tires. It's got a new beacon light. There's also multiple other items that we went ahead and did on the plane. You take a look at the logbooks, which we have the full digital logs on our website, and you'll see just how extensive that annual and maintenance was. Now, one thing I think we all like is to have a plane that looks nice. And to paint a plane, people don't really realize it, but it can be more expensive than some avionics upgrades. Because right now, paint costs are running about $18,000. But if you take a look at the condition of this paint, it is shiny, it is clean. It was done really nicely. It's got a nicer kind of updated scheme with the two stripe colors. When they did the end number, they matched it to the blue stripe, so it looks, the red, white, and blue theme looks really nice. And when they did the paint and the upgrades, I mean, they went ahead and they painted all the wheel pans, so the wheel pans match in the color, and the design and everything all flows through and matches all the way down to the wheel pans, so they took quite a bit of pride in doing that properly. And speaking of the wheel pans, if you take a look at it, it actually has a speed mod on it. So if you see here, this is a speed mod that's put on here because normally it would just be a small section. It keeps the air more aerodynamic going across it, so both on both of the main wheels. And then they also have the speed mod up on the front cowling here. If we take a look at this here, they put one over the exhaust, which helps because otherwise it's just a hole and the air can get kind of sucked in. And then they also have the plexiglass up here on top of the landing light, so those help keep it more aerodynamic, a little bit better for the flights and stuff like that. Exterior wise, overall this plane is in really nice condition. It's got nicer, newer paint, but there are a few minor things that you probably won't notice unless you're actually looking for them. I do want to point them out to you so you can see. Up here on the front, there is a small little section here that's got just a little bit of a ding in it that you'll notice. Other than that, if you take a look at the wings and everything, pretty nice condition. Paint is in really nice good shape. The lights and everything like that. And then if you go back here, there's one other spot too on the stabilator, and full video on our YouTube channel talks about this stabilator in detail. Huge control surface, watch that for sure. But this section here, like I said, you probably don't even notice it, but it's just a small little section, and you have to push the whole plane down to do that front tire if you want to change it. A lot of times people don't pay attention when they're blocking it up, so it could even just be from touching the ground when they did a tire change, but it's been stop drilled, so it's just a small section there. Overall, everything else on the paint is shiny, pretty clean. A very couple small spots that have a little bit of chipping in the paint, but really hardly anything at all. So on to one of the main reasons that everybody loves the Cessna Cardinal is just how easy it is to get in and out. It is the easiest GA plane. You open the door first, it's 90 degrees to open it. You've got all the space here in front of your wheel pant, so you don't have to climb over the strut to get in. You literally just walk in here, you sit up, and you're in the front seat. Really easy. The front seats go back and forth quite a bit for the space. If you're getting passengers into the back, again, you've got the seat kind of in the middle, not even all the way forward. You just flip this so that you can put that back. You're climbing up and in, and then if you grab this and set it back how it's going to be in flight, look how much leg room you've got. It's just a really spacious cabin. You've got lots of shoulder room in both the front and the back, lots of space for your passengers to get in and out. The height is nice. It's actually got a bubble in here to give you a little bit more height for taller pilots or passengers. So it's really nice, thought out design overall for everything. If we take a look at the interior condition, just taking a look at the panels and the door, first of all, you see this is a door steward. It's actually a design that they put in, an aftermarket upgrade that bolts in, because the one thing with these doors, if you open it with the wind behind you, it can easily catch it. It'll wrench it. It'll twist these hinges, and then you have to replace the hinges. This door steward is an extra shock absorber that helps hold it without letting it overextend the door too much. You still don't want to open it into a direct tailwind, really fast, heavy tailwind, but this helps with those lighter winds, or if a passenger accidentally opens it without really realizing it, keeps it from getting damaged on the hinges. Now let's take a closer look at the engine on this Cardinal. It is an 0360 A1F6D. And as I mentioned before, this is a fully overhauled engine. There are multiple ways to overhaul the engine on a plane. The easiest or least expensive way would be to use overhauled cylinders and overhauled engine by going into a local maintenance shop that does all different kinds of maintenance. They'll pull it apart, overhaul the cylinders, some other components, and put it back together on the field and call it an overhaul. But it's not a way that you can zero time the engine. One of the more expensive ways is to use an engine shop, and Western Skyways is one of the premier shops and one of the most well-known shops to do engine overhauls. This has a gold seal overhaul done by Western Skyways. It is all new Superior Millennium cylinders, a new starter, a new propeller, a new prop governor, and a new alternator. So you can see the alternator is brand new. The starter on the other side is a SkyTech starter that is brand new. These are Superior Millennium cylinders. These are new. The prop governor back here is new. And then the vacuum pump was overhauled, and also the carburetor underneath was overhauled when the engine was done. It's a fully timed engine. I mean, everything. You'll see the logbook entry. It has everything done on there that was listed. It will come with the warranty from Western Skyways. That'll be fully transferable over to the new buyer. And just taking a look here, you can see the propellers, McCully two-blade prop, and this was done by Maxwell Aircraft, one of the top propeller companies. They went ahead and they did the overhaul on the internal hub components, basically replaced almost everything in there, and then completely refinished it. And you can see it's very beautiful condition, fully refinished on there. So just taking a look all around it, you can see the ignition harness is new. Everything has been refinished. It's got the gold seal sticker on there from Western Skyways. Everything else has been cleaned up on it, and you can just see the condition of how clean everything is between the cables and the hoses and then the sensors, everything like that. All of these type of fuel lines that have been replaced when the engine was done. So overall, the components into it, the firewall is nice and clean. Taking an overall look at the interior of the plane, a lot of it is original, and that just shows how well kept this plane has been, because if you look at it, it's clean, it doesn't have a bunch of cracks or anything on the plastics anywhere, and that just shows that it was maintained really nicely. So the seats are kind of a nice vinyl with the cloth inserts. It's very comfortable how they have it set up with the section in the bottom for your sitting. The back is got a nice support to it. This side here, we have, so you can slide forward and backward. The other seat has dual adjustment, so this one tilts the back and forth, and then this one actually raises the seat up and down, so you can get a little bit more height out of it if you need a little bit more view out of the front window. We take a look. They've got this seat belts upgraded to match the color. So this nice deep blue, which matches the exterior paint, and it is a 3-point harness system for the front. So you've got these harnesses which come down and lock into place for the front seats, and then for the rear seats, they match the same layout. It's actually split bench seats, which most of them are just a single bench, but it's kind of nice that it's got a split seat here. It's got the headrests on there, which a lot of them don't anymore. It is a 4-place intercom system, so you have the outlets for 2 passengers to be able to hear the radios as well. And it's got this little thing here, so you pop that. You can go and take a nap in flight. Nice reclining feature for it. And then you just pull it forward, and you can lock it back in place. It has, I think, 2 adjustments all the way back, so it's really nice to have that for longer flights. Looking at the plastics, you can see really nice condition overall. There's a couple small spots that I noticed couple cracks, but really, really clean overall. It matches everything. The color just kind of flows through the dark blue on the side panels. If we take a look at the headliner as well, that has a really nice heavy fabric to help with the noise dampening. It's got these, which are the airline style vents, I like to call them, so you can open and close individually for the 2 back. And then you've got the center section, which is your speaker for your audio, and then here your airline style vents for the front pilot and co-pilot. And then you've got your visors, sun visors, which is nice for those afternoon or early morning flights with the sun in your eyes. And then just taking a look down to the carpet, you can see that that again has got this nice deep blue color. It's got these rubber parts right in the front here so that they don't get wore out from you having your heels pushing in when you're using your rudder pedals. And then these nice deep seat pockets to hold all of your stuff, your fuel dips and your control locks and everything like that. So a very well thought out, well designed interior and very well maintained. Let's take a closer look at the panel on the Cessna Cardinal. So just starting off on the left hand corner, you can see we've got the ELT here. This is that newer style with the GPS locator. It's got the remote switch. The rest of it's mounted back in the tail. You've got your suction gauge, your quartz clock or chronometer on there, your standard 6-pack layout, although this one does have the altitude, pressure altitude selection. And then here you've actually got a ring around here so you can adjust and set your altitudes that you want to get up to. So those are kind of a nice thing. Standard down here, you've got over here dual VOR CDIs. So this one is hooked up to the top GPS. This one's hooked up to the secondary nav. And then you've got the rest of the basics over here. You actually have an EGT gauge, which is a nice thing to have, your fuel pressure, and then your cylinder head temp, your amps, oil, and then you've got your left and your right fuel tank, oil temp, your manifold pressure, and your RPM gauge. 2,927.7 hours on the tach. You've got an avionics master, and then all of your lights and your pitot heat and everything down along the bottom. Onto the center stack, we've got a Garmin GMA 340 audio panel. It's got the pilot, co-pilot switches here. It has the crew isolation function, dual nav comm. You can adjust your microphone to the top comm or the bottom comm. So our top comm, nav comm, is actually built into the Garmin GTN 650, top of the line GPS that's available here. This is touch screen. You've got your map function. You have traffic. You have terrain, flight plans, procedures, your nearest. You've got weather. Everything is available in this system. And then your secondary radio navcom is a Narco MK12D Plus. So it's got dual frequencies you can punch in for both the nav and the comm, which allows you to pretty much set up multiple frequencies, flip back and forth between all of them in flight. And then down here is your secondary GPS. So this is actually a Garmin Areas 550 GPS, and this is again a touch screen, so you can go in here and let me get into the menu. You've got your terrain, you've got your traffic. So once we wrap up the panel here, you'll see we've got an AccuTrack AccuFlight system. This is actually the autopilot system. So it's got a couple different features, and we'll show a little bit of that in the flight, but it's kind of nice to just have that. It does have a heading selector, very useful system to have autopilot. Rounding out the center section here, obviously we've got our controls for the throttle prop mixture, your carb heat, your defrost in your cabin air and heat. You've got your trim here for the elevator, and then you've also got your trim here for the rudder controls. You've got your connections here to plug in the headsets, which is very nice, not having to look up under the dash. They're right there in the center. We've got your outlet for power. It does have a spare microphone here for using, but both the pilot and co-pilot do have push to talk feature, so you don't need to use that if you don't want to. Your cowl flap is right there, and then right here in the center, finally we have our fuel tank selector. It has a left and a right and a both option, so you can put it on the both and fly it without having to flip back and forth, but you're also on longer flights. Good idea to flip it one side or the other to keep your wings balanced. Over here to round out the panel, you can see we have the Garmin GTX 345 transponder. Now this is the top of the line, most expensive transponder that you can buy out there for ADS-B in and out. It is going to give you traffic and weather in flight. It's connected up to the Garmin GTN 650, so you actually have remote control of the transponder, putting in your squawk code, and also ident and everything like that is right here in the center stack. Or if you've got a pilot on the right side, they can push the codes in here manually, ident, flip it over to VFR. Very easy, intuitive to use. And the added benefit of this is that you actually can connect this through Bluetooth to any wireless device, your phone or your iPad or whatever it is, and have traffic and weather on those in flight as well. So extremely beneficial. This here is, we've got your little cubby, and you can see it's got all of the manuals for all of these items in here. Super thick, full pilot's guide for the GTN 650, as well as guides for all the other avionics in here. Very detailed paperwork that comes with this plane and everything that you need to know in order to fly using these latest avionics. So between the Garmin GTX 345 ADS-B in and out transponder and then the Garmin GTN 650 touchscreen GPS navcom, and adding in these two VOR CDI indicators, and both of them do have glide slope available as well, the package of those combined is easily $25,000 to $27,000. So you can see that it's been upgraded and you've got quite an expensive avionics panel in this plane. So one of the things I really like about how the Cessnas, especially the Cardinals, are set up is the flaps. So if you see here, if I just push it down, it stops. That's your first 10 degrees. This indent feature is very intuitive, easy to use, 20 degrees, and then you pull it over and down to get to 30. And so when you're lifting it up, same thing, if you want to go incremental, it's very easy without having to look at this while you're flying. You just reach over in flight while you're monitoring your gauges. You don't even have to think about it. You just push it down till it stops and know that you're just doing 10 degrees at a time without having to worry about it sliding too far down. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get the Cardinal started up. So we're going to start out down here in the bottom. We're checking that our fuel selector is on both, which is straightforward. Cowl flaps are open all the way. Mixture in, prop is in, our throttle is cracked just a little bit. Our beacon light is on, so we're going to flip the master on. We won't need much to prime, so I'm just going to put a little half pump of primer in there. Make sure that's locked. And then we'll go ahead and we'll turn the key and get it fired up.
Stark County Airport. Automated weather observation 2357 Zulu weather wind 350 at 6 visibility.
Run-up is done at 1700 RPM on the Cardinal. First you want to check the magnetos, check the carb heat, and obviously we want to pull the prop control out 3 times. This is to cycle the warm oil through the prop governor before takeoff, while also checking the RPM and oil pressure for their drop, and then looking outside on the cowling for any visible leaks. We're running at 10 degrees of flaps. We're going to have a smooth acceleration right at about 60 miles per hour. We're going to let the nose wheel lift off, so we're going to hold it down until then. And then once we lift off, we're going to set up our climb at about 85 miles an hour. We'll be able to adjust our nose trim to maintain the climb. You can see we've got good RPM, good manifold pressure. Once we get up to altitude, put the flaps up and continue the climb, adjust the trim for the lack of flaps. The nice point of having multiple GPS units is you can have your track showing on one and your traffic showing on another if you want. This one, when you run the map, it will show both the track, if you've got a waypoint in place, and your traffic. Now that we're closer to these, you can see that it's 300 above, this one is 1,000 below and descending. That's what the little arrow is there, so lots of information available right on the screen there for us. So down here, we've got a pull-out knob, and that's your autopilot activation. So once you select that, and then this one on the far right that says nav 1, you select nav 1. And then you can see here it's working back to capture the track. It'll just take a little bit of time to get back over there to the track since we activated it when we were still off the track a bit. The Cessna Cardinal is a very stable and predictable airplane, which makes it a great instrument platform, and the flight controls are very light, so anyone can fly the plane easily. And the visibility is amazing. Our current airspeed is at 140 miles per hour, with our true airspeed at about 145 miles per hour, and a ground speed of 127 knots. So the thing with the Cardinal is that even if you don't have an autopilot system, this is such a hands-free flying plane. It's very smooth. You've got both your elevator trim and your rudder trim to help keep you pretty much on course. So when we're landing, we can do a no-flap landing between 80 to 90 miles per hour. And then if we are going to use flaps, for 10 degrees of flaps, you're supposed to be under 130, and then to put in the other notch of flaps is 105. So we'll want to be using flaps, we'll want to be using 70 to 80 miles an hour on our final approach. We're right at about 90 miles an hour right now. Once we get the field made and pulled in, we'll be able to do 70 to 80, pull the power back, keep just a hair of power in towards the end without doing a complete power out. Full stall type of landing gives you a lot more control towards the end here as we get to the runway.